on Genesis chapter 34. Interesting chapter. The first two verses. Now Dinah, the daughter of Leah, whom she had borne to Jacob, went out to visit the daughters of the land. And when Shechem, the son of Hamor the Hivite, the prince of the land, saw her, he took her and lay with her by force. Well, so Dinah goes to town to see the other women, and this Shechem takes her by force. Now, the normal thought here would be that he raped her. But that might not necessarily be so. That Hebrew word for force is anah. And it's the same Hebrew word that's used to describe how an Israelite can take a captive woman as his wife. And it's Deuteronomy 21, verses 13 and 14. She shall also remove the clothes of her captivity and shall remain in your house and mourn her father and mother a full month. And after that you may go into her to be your husband, and she shall be your wife. And it shall be, if you are not pleased with her, then you shall let her go wherever she wishes. But you shall certainly not sell her for money. You shall not mistreat her, because you have humbled her. Okay, that's that same word, that Hebrew word anah. Well, Ezekiel describes the sins of Israel and uses this same term in describing their sin, and it doesn't appear to be describing rape per se. In Ezekiel 22, starting at verse 10, in you they have uncovered their father's nakedness, in you they have humbled her who was unclean in her menstrual purity. Same word, Hebrew word anah. And one has committed abomination with his neighbor's wife, and another has lewdly defiled his daughter-in-law, and another in you has humbled, that Hebrew word anah, his sister, his father's daughter. You see, it seems to be describing not necessarily a rape, but some kind of a sexual encounter that should not have taken place, an improper sexual encounter, put it that way. It's possible. Yeah, this is something, it's short of rape on the part of Shechem. Okay, and this comes to light here as we go through the chapter. Well, you're not allowed to say that nowadays, Cliff. And was she where she shouldn't have been? That's irrelevant. And the next thing I know, you're going to ask, what was she wearing? Yes, Mary Alice.
Was she in the city? Did she go to town, or was she in the field?
No, she went in the city. She wasn't there to see the women.
Well, they were in
And
the city.
Shechem and her, let's look how this went here. Verse 3, and he was deeply attracted to Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, and he loved the girl and spoke tenderly to her. Right? She's supposed to call out if she's in the city. That's exactly right. That's in the Torah. But it looks like he doesn't act like the rapist here, okay? It says, Shechem loved Dinah and spoke tenderly to her. Now, that just doesn't fit violent rape very well here. The biggest problem with this union is that it's not allowed according to Torah, because he's an unbeliever, an uncircumcised unbeliever. Jacob, here's the problem. Jacob should not have set up his home so close to this pagan city. He stopped there. And evidence is that he stayed there 18 months. And it was right there by a pagan city. He exposed his family to evil that otherwise could have been avoided. Verse 4, so Shechem spoke to his father Hamor, saying, get me this young girl for a wife. Now Jacob heard that he had defiled Dinah, his daughter, but his sons were with his livestock in the field, so Jacob kept silent until they came in. Then Hamor, the father of Shechem, went out to Jacob to speak with him. So Shechem wants to marry this gal Dinah, but this union could not work. Okay, it cannot take place. Even if the sex hadn't taken place, that can't happen. See, Jacob kept the incident to himself for a period of time. Why? Why did he do that? Well, I think he knew what his sons would do, and he didn't want to tell them. He didn't want to tell them. Well, that's the thing. Verse 7, now the sons of Jacob came in from the field when they heard it, and the men were grieved. And they were very angry because he had done a disgraceful thing in Israel by lying with Jacob's daughter. For such a thing ought not to be done. So they were angry about this little incident, and the text says that that's a thing that ought not to be done. And it's her fault too. Okay? And Jacob's for having them there for such a long period of time also. Verse 8, but Hamor spoke with them, saying, the soul of my son Shechem longs for your daughter. Please give her to him in marriage, and intermarry with us. Give your daughters to us, and take our daughters for yourselves. Thus you shall live with us, and the land shall be open for you. Live and trade in it, and acquire property in it. Boy, it just sounds like a great little community here, doesn't it? It's not going to happen. You know, as mentioned many times previously, the Torah of Elohim was known by the people. They all knew the Torah at this time. They were following it. And intermarriage with pagans is not allowed. Jacob knew it was wrong in Deuteronomy 7, starting at verse 1. When Yahweh your Elohim shall bring you into the land where you are entering to possess it, and shall clear away many nations before you, the Hittites and the Girgashites and the Amorites and the Canaanites and the Perizzites and the Hivites and the Jebusites. By the way, Hivites. This guy was a Hivite. 7 nations greater and stronger than you, and when Yahweh your Elohim shall deliver them before you, you shall defeat them. Then you shall utterly destroy them. You shall make no covenant with them, show no favor to them. Furthermore, you shall not intermarry with them. You shall not give your daughters to their sons, nor shall you take their daughters for your sons. For they'll turn your sons away from following me to serve other gods. Then the anger of Yahweh will be kindled against you, and he will quickly destroy you. Okay? Quickly destroy you. Yeah, because that's what Nehemiah said. He was beside himself when he finally got into the land and saw that they had intermarried with the pagan lands. First thing he could think was, he's going to quickly destroy us. And we just got here. So he commanded everyone to divorce. Bad answer. Everyone to divorce in that instance. Bad answer. What's the good answer? There's no stay the way you are and be destroyed. Those are your two answers. So,
Yeah, but that leaves her filed and not married.
Right. Well, that's true. Verses 11 and 12. Shechem also said to her father and to her brothers, if I find favor in your sight, then I'll give whatever you say to me. Ask me ever so much bridal payment and gift, and I'll give according as you say to me, but give me the girl in marriage. Excuse me. Now Shechem sounds real eager to please, but he's being deceitful. A dowry was customary for the girl, just as Jacob paid for his wives with 14 years of his service to Laban. It would appear that Shechem knew that he has to pay a dowry according to the Torah. In Exodus 22, verses 16 and 17, and if a man seduces a virgin who is not engaged and lies with her, he must pay a dowry for her to be his wife. If her father absolutely refuses to give her to him, he shall pay money equal to the dowry for virgins. So, you see, all these laws in Torah are being followed, except for this one about this him wanting to do this mixed marriage thing. And it's not going to happen, by the way. Verses 13 and 14. But Jacob's sons answered Shechem and his father Hamor with deceit, and spoke with them, because he had defiled Dinah, their sister. And they said to them, we cannot do this thing, to give our sister to one who is uncircumcised, for that would be a disgrace to us. You know, the sons of Israel concocted a little scheme here in order to gain revenge, because they felt disgraced. Now, that's revenge is a bad word, okay? But that's what they're planning here. Verse 15. Only on this condition will we consent to you, if you'll become like us, in that every male of you be circumcised. Then we'll give our daughters to you, and we'll take your daughters for ourselves. And we'll live with you and become one people. But if you will not listen to us to be circumcised, then we'll take our daughter and go. So they're making circumcision the requirement for this union and the requirement for joining these families together. So now their words seemed reasonable to Hamor and Shechem, Hamor's son. And the young man did not delay to do the thing because he was delighted with Jacob's daughter. Now he was more respected than all the household of his father. So Hamor and his son Shechem came to the gate of the city and spoke to the men of their city, saying, well, I look at that passage there. He's the most honorable man in that household. The guy that's allegedly, people say, raped Dinah. That's a strange term to describe a guy who raped a gal as the most honored man in the household. You got a pretty crummy household if that's the case, wouldn't you say? Well, Hamor and Shechem, they call the men to the gates of the city to persuade them to get circumcised. Yeah, I'll bet that was one heck of a speech. You want to talk about charisma. It would take a lot of it. Yeah. What do you mean by circumcision? Explain, please. Well, you're out of your mind. Verse 21. These men are friendly with us. Therefore, let them live in the land and trade in it. For behold, the land is large enough for them. Let us take their daughters in marriage and give our daughters to them. Only on this condition will the men consent to live with us, to become one people, that every male among us be circumcised as they are circumcised. Will not their livestock and their property and all their animals be ours? Only let us consent to them, and they will live with us. So they convinced the men on the premise that they could have all the livestock and everything of Jacob through marriage. And all his property and everything. His livestock, you remember it was huge anyway. It's probably been growing ever since. And the people had their eye on it. Verse 24, and all who went out of the gate of his city listened to Hamor and his son Shechem, and every male was circumcised. All who went out of the gate of his city. Now it came about on the third day when they were in pain that two of Jacob's sons, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, each took his sword and came upon the city unawares and killed every male. So all the men were circumcised. The very part of the body used to defile Dinah is now the enablement of the revenge of Israel's sons. But this ruthless response is not going to go unpunished. Jacob prophesied that the tribes descending from Simeon and Levi would be dispersed throughout Israel. In Genesis 49, and here in Genesis 49, Jacob gathers all his kids together, and he tells them what's going to happen to them. And starting in verse 5, he says, Simeon and Levi are brothers. Their swords are implements of violence. Let my soul not enter into their counsel. Let not my glory be united with their assembly. Because in their anger they slew men, and in their self-will they lamed oxen. Cursed be their anger, for it is fierce, and their wrath, for it is cruel. I'll disperse them in Jacob and scatter them in Israel. Getting revenge in that manner, or just getting revenge for being disgraced, is not justice. Verse 26, and they killed Hamor and his son Shechem with the edge of the sword, and took Dinah from Shechem's house and went forth. Where was Dinah staying again? Staying with Shechem, was she? Well, I'll be. That'd be mighty strange if this was rape we were talking about. So that's how this story is always led into, with the rape of Dinah. I don't buy it. I don't think so at all. It was a disgrace. Christianity will tell the story that way. Of course, that's normally what to do with the Tanakh. They tell stories, all right? But in examining this, and the title of their story is The Rape of Dinah and so forth. But when you examine this, That's not what happened at all. Dinah disgraced the family. Okay? He may have charmed her and wooed her or whatever, but he fell in love with her. And with that being the case, and they weren't married, it disgraced the family. And those two sons killed everybody for it. That's, Dinah, it would appear, was playing the harlot with Shechem, and her brothers were ashamed. And they thought, I don't know how this was going to help. Because really, those people didn't do anything to them. Verse 27, Jacob's sons came upon the slain and looted the city because they defiled their sister. They took their flocks and their herds and their donkeys and that which was in the city and that which was in the field. And they captured and looted all their wealth and all their little ones and their wives, even all that was in the houses. The sons of Jacob plundered the city. They took everything, all the women, all the little ones. This was not sanctioned by Elohim. It was a sad example of plain revenge. See, what's wrong with revenge? Why are we not supposed to do it? Because Elohim owns revenge. Okay? If you take revenge, who are you taking it from? You're taking it from Elohim. That's exactly right. Don't steal from the Father. Verse 30. Then Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, you have brought trouble on me by making me odious among the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanites and the Perizzites. And my men being few in number, they'll gather together against me and attack me, and I shall be destroyed, I and my household. And they said, should he treat our sister as a harlot? Jacob is concerned here that this act would cause severe problems with the other surrounding cities, the other people around. And and he was silenced by this question from his sons. Should we treat our sister as a harlot? It's a good question. Who's at fault here? The sons. You know who's initially at fault?
You know, it's her fault for starting in the first place.
I would say Jacob's at fault. He moved his family by a pagan city to where they're going to be exposed to things that they wouldn't have been exposed to otherwise. And this could be where the sons develop their tempers. This is when Dinah went to go see the other women in the city. What were the other women in the city doing? What do you think they were doing? It's a pagan city. Yeah, acting like harlots, yeah.
For other men.
Sure.
Well, that's a nice word.
Yeah, that's a nice word. I'm proud of you, Tom. Hey, let's hear it for Tom. Yeah, you did good. Sherry, you're doing good. Yeah, Brian.
What would be the punishment for a harlot?
See, that depends. If it's the harlot, if she's the daughter of a priest, which, I guess Jacob and his sons would be considered priests. Believe it or not, she used to be burned with fire. So,
And really, the scripture says here, a whore.
yeah, it says a whore in the scriptures. Yep.
Yeah, she been treated. Amen. The sister been treated like a whore. Just put it down straight out.
Yeah. And Pauline, we're trying to get Tom out of this, and you're dragging him right back down. Yeah, Cliff. Yeah. Right? That's correct. Yeah. Yeah, they've got everything they need in amongst themselves. They have servants, they have flocks, they have herds. There's food everywhere. So anyway, Let's look at the next chapter, chapter 35, verse 1. Then Elohim said to Jacob, arise, go up to Bethel and live there, and make an altar there to Elohim, who appeared to you when you fled from your brother Esau. So Elohim is telling Jacob, go back to Bethel. That's where he wrestled with Elohim all night. It's also where Elohim confirmed that the covenant with his father Abraham is going through him. Now, this chapter involves a recommitment of Jacob and his family to service, in service to Elohim. Verses 2 and 3. So Jacob said to his household and to all who were with him, put away the foreign gods which are among you, and purify yourselves, and change your garments. And let us arise and go up to Bethel, and I will make an altar there to Elohim, who answered me in the day of my distress, and has been with me wherever I've gone. Now the household of Jacob and his servants were to put out the foreign gods among them that are among them, and purify themselves. The act of purifying themselves and changing their garments, that's an outward act indicating the cleansing of the heart toward Yahweh. In Isaiah 1, verses 16 through 18, wash yourselves, make yourselves clean. Remove the evil of your deeds from my sight. Cease to do evil. Learn to do good, seek justice, reprove the ruthless. Defend the orphan, plead for the widow. Come now and let us reason together, says Yahweh. Though your sins are as scarlet, they'll be white as snow. Though they're red like crimson, they'll be like wool. Now the instructions given to Jacob here, put away your false gods, purify yourselves, clean yourselves, and put on clean clothes. That is very similar to the instructions that Elohim gave Moses to give to Israel before they made a covenant together. He told them, wash their clothes and put away their false gods. In Exodus 19, starting at verse 10, Yahweh also said to Moses, go to the people and consecrate them today and tomorrow, and let them wash their garments. Let them be ready for the third day, for on the third day Yahweh will come down on Mount Sinai in the sight of all the people. And you shall set bounds for the people all around, saying, beware that you do not go up on the mountain or touch the border of it. Whoever touches the mountain shall surely be put to death. No hand shall touch him, but he shall surely be stoned or shot through, whether beast or man, he shall not live. When the ram's horn sounds a long blast, they shall come up to the mountain. So Moses went down from the mountain to the people and consecrated the people, and they washed their garments. And then we read when he did give them made the covenant with them. In Exodus 20, starting at verse 3, you shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an idol or any likeness of what is in heaven above or on the earth beneath or in the water under the earth. You shall not worship them or serve them, for I, Yahweh, your Elohim, am a jealous Elohim, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children, on the third and fourth generations of those who hate me, but showing loving kindness. What could that word be again? What should it be again? It should be grace. But they won't show grace in the Tanakh. Don't want to show that. No, because grace is reserved for the New Testament, when that new religion started. But showing grace to the thousands, to those who love me and do what? Keep my commandments. How do you show your love to the Father? Keep his commandments. Okay, instead of keeping his commandments, why don't let's do this instead. And make you an offer here. Instead of following his commandments, let's think about him real strong. Okay? I mean real strong. If you have to pluck out a nose hair to get a tear going, do it for Jesus, okay? And let's sing songs for him. Now, why don't we do that instead of following his commandments? Good strong feelings and sing songs for him.
We could go to hell.
Yeah. Oh, because that's not what he instructed us to do. But, you see, that's how we show love, though, Cliff. But what's wrong with crying a tear for him and telling him how much you really love him and then singing a song to him? What's wrong with that?
That's not what he wants. That kind of substitution wouldn't go out.
Oh, that's not what he wants. But that's how we show our love, isn't it? I'll tell you what, we'll buy him flowers and put them on the altar too. How's that? No substitutions. Yeah. You know, you're exactly right. He dictates how we show our love for him. He shows his grace to, notice it doesn't say millions. It doesn't say billions, it doesn't say millions, it doesn't even say hundreds of thousands. You know, and we don't know who. I'm not saying that so-and-so and Tom aren't going to heaven. I'm not saying that. It's not my call. If it's my call, Tom's going to be there. See, that's the deal. To those who love me and keep my commandments, that's how you show your love for him. That's how you do it. You know, it says in 1 John 2, verses 3 through 7, he who says he knows him and does not keep his commandments is a liar. You don't even know him if you don't keep his commandments. You don't even know him. Yeah, only applicable to Jews. Yeah, I've heard that too. That's for them. That's for the Jews to follow. I was looked everywhere. I couldn't see Jew anywhere in that. I didn't. I went all the way through every one of them 10 commandments. I looked up the Hebrew words, and Jew was not there. I looked. Oh, it's just for his people. Oh, so if you're not his people, then you don't have to do those things. That's correct. You're right.
And then that was nailed to the cross.
Yeah, it ended at the cross. Oh. Thank you, Pauline. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's true, Tom. You would. Let's look at verses 4 and 5. So they gave to Jacob all the foreign gods which they had, and the rings which were in their ears, and Jacob hid them under the oak which was near Shechem. As they journeyed, there was a great terror upon the cities which were around them, and they did not pursue the sons of Jacob. The terror here, the book of Jasher says, and once again, the book of Jasher, you can't really rely on that, but it did say, Jacob states that the sons of Jacob went to several cities and killed other people. Well, I don't think so. I think just rumor of the fact that they wiped out everyone in that one city would have been struck terror in their hearts, because apparently there's some pretty mean folk, okay? And I think that's what it is. Verse 6, so Jacob came to Luz, that is Bethel, which is in the land of Canaan, he and all the people who were with him. And he built an altar there, and he called the place El Bethel. Because there Elohim had revealed himself to him when he fled from his brother. Now Deborah, Rebekah's nurse, died, and she was buried below Bethel under the oak, and it was named Allon Bakuth. Now, El Bethel, what's that mean? What's Bethel mean? House of Elohim. So what does El Bethel mean? The Elohim of the house of Elohim. You know, the terebinth tree was named Allon Bakuth, which means oak of weeping, because of who died there. Verses 9 and 10, then Elohim appeared to Jacob again when he came from Padan Aram, and he blessed him. And Elohim said to him, your name is Jacob, you shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel shall be your name. Thus he called him Israel. So Jacob is blessed by Elohim again, and he's reminded one more time that his name is changed to Israel. Verse 11, Elohim also said to him, I am Elohim Almighty. Be fruitful and multiply. A nation and a company of nations shall come from you, and kings shall come forth from you. And the land which I gave to Abraham and Isaac I will give to you, and I will give the land to your descendants after you. Then Elohim went up from him in the place where he had spoken with him. So that term, he says, I am Elohim Almighty. That's the term El Shaddai. It's a beautiful term. Jacob is told to be fruitful and multiply. He already has 11 sons, and we don't know how many daughters he has aside from the one, but he probably had more. He's told that he will become a company of nations, a multitude, or an assembly of nations. kings are going to come from his body. The land is given to Israel and to his descendants after him. Paul talked about that in Romans. He talked about that a lot, actually, the land. In Romans 4, starting at verse 11, we read, "And he received the sign of circumcision, a seal of the righteousness of the faithfulness which he had while uncircumcised, that he might be the father of all who believe without being circumcised, that righteousness might be reckoned to them, and the father of circumcision to those who not only are of the circumcision, meaning Jews, but who also follow in the steps of the faithfulness of our father Abraham, which he had while uncircumcised." Now, what faithfulness did Abraham have that he displayed? What did he display in faithfulness to the Father? He did what he told him to do, and it actually goes further than that. And this is one you should probably have memorized. It's Genesis 26, verse 5. And I need my reading glasses. I'll start at verse 4. He's speaking to Isaac here. He says, "I'll multiply your descendants as the stars of heaven, and will give your descendants all these lands, and by your descendants all the nations of the earth shall be blessed, because Abraham obeyed me and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my Torah." See, he already had it. They all already had it. And Abraham was careful to observe and obey all the laws, commandments, statutes.
I understand what you're saying. He already had it. Where some believe it was not Sinai.
Right?
It was the birth of it. That's not true.
That's not true. It's not the birth of it at all. All that it was is called a covenant that was made. And when that covenant was made, these are the terms of that covenant. Okay? And if you obey these terms, I'll be your Elohim and you will be my people. Okay, that's the deal. And the people said, everything you say, we'll do. Moses took those words, went up the mountain, Mount Sinai. Okay, they had a covenant going. That was not the giving of the Torah. No, 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 no. No, it was not. And Abraham, what was he promised? That land. Okay, that land, that beautiful land. It's now starting to really flourish. That's the kingdom that's going to come, that comes down from the heavens. It'll be that land. That's where the resurrection will consummate, is in that land. That's why we will continue here in verse 16 of Romans 4. "For this reason it is by faithfulness, that it might be in accordance with graciousness," and that's all of the Father, "in order that the promise may be certain to all the descendants, not only to those who are of the Torah, which are of the law, which are the Jews, but also to those who are of the faithfulness of Abraham, who is the father of us all." In Romans 9, starting at verse 6, "But it is not as though the word of Elohim has failed, for they're not all Israel who are descended from Israel. Neither are they all children, because they're Abraham's descendants, but through Isaac your descendants will be named. That is, it's not the children of the flesh who are the children of Elohim, but the children of the promise are regarded as descendants." And what did the descendants of Abraham inherit? That land. That's the kingdom of heaven. Yeah.
Something that concerned me, during the Noah's Ark deal, the whole earth was, all the people were destroyed, and we should be all descendants
Of Noah.
Noah.
Yeah, we are.
And so we should be part of the chosen people automatically, not just, we don't have to be Jewish anymore.
Well, no, it doesn't. Your bloodline is not what's important. Yeah, it's not a bloodline. That's what Paul was battling all the time. It not being a...
Line back to Noah, see?
Well, yeah, that's true. But keep in mind, salvation comes through the line of Abraham, not through Noah.
Oh, I got you.
Verse 14, "And Jacob set up a pillar in the place where he had spoken with him, a pillar of stone, and he poured out a libation on it. He also poured oil on it." You know, what's a libation? It's a drink offering. And he poured out a drink offering and an oil on the pillar. Jacob is now in the land given to him by Elohim, and it's in the Torah that he is to do this. In Numbers 15, starting at verse 2, speak to the sons of Israel and say to them, when you enter the land where you are to live, which I'm giving you, that's where Jacob is, he's in that land, then make an offering by fire to Yahweh, a burnt offering or a sacrifice to fulfill a special vow, or as a free will offering or in your appointed times to make a soothing aroma to Yahweh from the herd or from the flock. And the one who presents his offering shall present to Yahweh a grain offering of 1/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with 1/4 of a hin of oil. And you shall prepare wine for the libation, 1/4 of a hin, with the burnt offering or for the sacrifice for each lamb. Or for a ram you shall prepare as a grain offering 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with 1/3 of a hin of oil. And for the libation you shall offer 1/3 of a hin of wine as a soothing aroma to Yahweh. So he's doing what he's supposed to do according to the Torah. Jacob had not yet been cultivating the ground. He didn't have the grain, but it appears that he followed much of that requirement. Verses 15 and 16. So Jacob named the place where Elohim had spoken with him Bethel. Then they journeyed from Bethel. When there was still some distance to go to Ephrath, Rachel began to give birth, and she suffered severe labor. Ephrath is the ancient name of Bethlehem. The prophet Micah prophesied that this would be the birthplace of Messiah in Micah 5, verse 2. But as for you, Bethlehem Ephrathah. See, that's where that term Ephrathah came from. Too little to be among the clans of Judah. From you one will go forth from me to be ruler in Israel. His goings forth are from long ago, from the days of eternity. Now Matthew quotes this verse here in Micah as one being known by the scribes as the one that tells where the king would come from. Remember, Herod wanted to know where the king is coming from. That's in Matthew 2, starting at verse 4. And gathering all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he began to inquire of them where the Messiah was to be born. And they said to him, in Bethlehem of Judea, for it has been written by the prophet, and you, Bethlehem, land of Judah, are by no means least among the leaders of Judah, for out of you shall come forth a ruler who will shepherd my people, Israel. Verse 17, verse 17. It came about when she was in severe labor that the midwife said to her, do not fear, for now you have another son. And it came about as her soul was departing, for she died, that she named him Ben-Oni, but his father named him Benjamin. Rachel called her last, her last son Ben-Ami, which means son of my sorrow or son of my misfortune. Israel changed the name to Benjamin, which means son of the right hand. And in a way, he's kind of a picture of the Messiah who is at the right hand of the Father, out of Bethlehem from the same place. Verses 19 and 20. So Rachel died and was buried on the way to Ephrath, that is Bethlehem. And Jacob set up a pillar over her grave. That is the pillar of Rachel's grave to this day. You know, Jacob had 4 wives, but Rachel was the only one he asked for. She's the only one he worked for. She's the only one he longed for. And he was the one she truly, truly loved the most. And without a doubt, he was terribly grief-stricken. Verses 21 and 22. Then Israel journeyed on and pitched his tent beyond the tower of Eder. And it came about while Israel was dwelling in the land that Reuben went and lay with Bilhah, his father's concubine. And Israel heard of it. Now, there were 12 sons of Jacob. Okay, this is a shameful act that Reuben would pay for. Israel, Jacob, did not forget it, even on his deathbed. Remember I told you Genesis 49, this is where he prophesies about what would happen to his sons, what their future would be. When Reuben was the firstborn, he was the oldest. In verses 3 and 4 of Genesis 49, Reuben, you are my firstborn, my might and the beginning of my strength, preeminent in dignity and preeminent in power. Uncontrolled as water, you shall not have preeminence. Because you went up to your father's bed, then you defiled it. He went up to my couch. Strictly prohibited in Torah. Yeah, he did. He did lose the birthright. The blessing in particular. He didn't really lose the birthright. He got the land. The blessing's what he lost. Verses 7 and 8 of Leviticus 18 says, you shall not uncover the nakedness of your father, that is, the nakedness of your mother. She is your mother, you are not to uncover her nakedness. You shall not uncover the nakedness of your father's wife. It is your father's nakedness. And that's what he did. Verse 23, the sons of Leah, Reuben, Jacob's firstborn, then Simeon and Levi, and Judah and Issachar and Zebulun. The sons of Rachel, Joseph and Benjamin. The sons of Bilhah, Rachel's maid, Dan and Naphtali. And the sons of Zilpah, Leah's maid, Gad and Asher. These are the sons of Jacob who were born to him in Paddan Aram. The sons of Israel numbered 12 in all from all 4 of his wives. And Jacob came to his father Isaac at Mamre of Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, where Abraham and Isaac had sojourned. Now the days of Isaac were 180 years. And Isaac breathed his last and died, and was gathered to his people, an old man of ripe age, and his sons Esau and Jacob buried him. Jacob was there to witness the burial of his father, and he and his brother buried Isaac at a ripe old age, 180 years. Any thoughts on Genesis 34 and 35? Yeah.
4 wives, 12 sons.
Yep.
Temple rotates whenever they camp in certain order. Was it by wives or any relationship to that?
Well, I'll look at that.
You understand what
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I don't know if the tribes were gathered around the tabernacle by wives tribes or not.
or was it by order?
I don't remember the order exactly, but it wasn't an equal number on each side. Okay, as far as number of people.